Obviously, we got to ask the question, what was it like to work with Donald Trump for 19 years?
I loved it. He mentored me, guided me, taught me. I really miss working with the guy.
Well, the impeachment. Where do you think this is going? It was obviously going for vote in the House.
Does anyone with a brain honestly believe that Donald Trump is a foreign agent and a threat to national security? Ridiculous. Don't just go through life blindly.
Donald Trump, very controversial, would you agree? There's lots of times people say that I got this opinion about him, I got this opinion on him. Well, listen, you've seen The Art of the Deal, you read the book, The Art of the Deal, but this gentleman here worked with Donald Trump for 19 years and just came up with the book, The Real Deal. So George Sorial, welcome to the Seven Figure Squad. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome,
Appreciate that, man.
Great talking here. I'm so glad
Thank
that you stuck on a little bit to shoot some video for our YouTube channel and for our
thanks.
Facebook social media community. So obviously we got to ask the question, what was it like to work with Donald Trump for 19 years?
You know, I really, I loved it.
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of people that they go to work, they do the motions, they're not really happy, they're just kind of living their lives. I honestly could say for years, I loved my job. I loved what I did there. I loved the people I work with.
Right.
He took great care of me. He mentored me, guided me, taught me. You know, I really miss working with the guy.
Well,
I still, you know, I'm still lucky. I've kept in touch with him. I see him pretty regularly. But I used to work with him every day, man, and I miss that. And that's, you know, I feel fortunate that I, even for a brief part of my life, had the ability to say that. Man, I love my job. I used to get up in the morning. It's just great. Yeah.
So, as an attorney, what was your capacity? What was your involvement there with him at? Was it Trump International, or was it?
I was executive vice president and counsel for the Trump Organization. So that was the umbrella company. I did some legal functions initially, but my primary role, I told a little story about it before. I was really heavily involved in golf and hotel development. So I was part of a team that would actually go all over the world and look for suitable pieces of land to build and develop on. And then ultimately, I would frequently actually hire and supervise the entire process, you know, all the legal stuff with zoning and planning, and then actually handle the construction aspect of it. So there were plenty of days where I would start off, you know, in the morning in a courtroom, and then end up on the back of a bulldozer, you know, in a hard hat at the end of the day. Wow. Great job. And then when he became president, I was made chief compliance counsel. So I was really, I kind of went back into doing legal stuff, and I was really the primary person interacting with the Senate, the House.
Nice.
I was handling all the emoluments issues, the conflicts of interest issues. Right. And, you know, as I mentioned, my book came out in June of this year. I felt it was the right thing to do to go out and promote the book independently, but I'm still very much involved with the organization. I see him regularly. I'm helping him with the campaign, doing a bunch of things.
His current campaign for re-election?
His current campaign for 2020. I do a lot of writing, a lot of media appearances. I've written stuff in Newsweek, the Wall Street Journal, and a lot of other publications. So I'm still out there supporting the guy. I think he's a good president, he's a good man, and he was very, very good to me.
You know, you were mentioning on stage you were removing all your bias, you know, from your talk today, right?
Trying to, yeah.
And so when people are looking at Trump and his countries and his taking on of all this criticism, I mean, does he like it?
You know, I don't think anyone, you know, like is a very specific word. Does he like being criticized? I mean, I don't think anyone likes that. He can certainly handle it, and I think the aspect of his personality which makes him really suited to do his job is that he's a guy that really handles conflict, and he knows how to manage it. He can put it where it needs to be. He can use it for his advantage. I think with a person like Trump, conflict motivates him. Okay? A lot of people are fearful of conflict, or they run, they go anywhere to avoid it. Trump is a guy that'll charge right into the middle of it, and I think conflict is part of what keeps him going. It's part of his DNA, if that makes sense.
It's interesting. So his conflict is actually a motivation because he got a point to prove.
younger people now don't like to talk about conflict, and they don't like to talk about adversity, and they think that we live in a world of flowers, and that's not reality. Life is tough, and I think what I've found in my 51 years on this earth is times you're really having fun, times that you're having pleasure, those are few and far between. Most of the time you're working, life is tough. Right. So you need to learn how to manage conflict. That's just how things are. That's part of life.
One of the things you said today I was really surprised to hear is that of all the business dealings that he has all over the world, it's really run like a small family business.
It's run like a family company, and those themes of trust, loyalty, those are very important. And again, I sometimes think that those are concepts that are dying.
Yeah.
People just don't appreciate them anymore. I mean, you served, you understand,
Right.
trusting your brother,
Right.
Having loyalty to your country. I sometimes feel that these are concepts that are just, they've become ancient. People don't appreciate anymore. People can do a lot of complaining. People can stand up publicly and say, I'm ashamed to be an American. I don't understand that. I don't get it.
One of the things that that he was calling out, President Trump was calling out at that time President Obama about was not having a birth certificate,
right?
Birth type stuff. So the flip side is because now he's open to attack on the tax return situation and from a businessman, from an entrepreneur. I've got my thoughts. I'm just wondering, in your opinion, why doesn't he just share his tax returns just like any other president did in the last 30-some years?
Well, it's not a legal requirement.
Okay.
I mean, he's shared any financial information that he's required to. He has. But I don't think I'd want people to look at my tax return. I mean, would you, Matt? I mean, there's, especially, can you imagine how complex? I mean, this is a guy that has 500 different businesses. Do you really want every armchair accountant sitting down and looking at it? I mean, not that he has anything to hide, but I think that's a very personal thing. I think it's something that, in the wrong hands, people can make something out of nothing. So, aside from the fact that he's under audit, I just don't think it's a smart thing. I wouldn't want to put my tax return out there, and it's not a legal requirement.
Sure.
So I think the whole argument about getting his tax return out there, it's just a red herring. It's just another thing they're throwing at the guy.
The whole thing about the impeachment, the inquiry, and them actually having no factual data, it's all hearsay type of evidence. Where do you think this is going? It's obviously going for vote in the House.
It's a sad, unfortunate thing. I made that comment, during my, my little speech, that watching these people over the past 2 weeks justify their arguments, where you're right, there's no legal grounds. He's the president. He can investigate anyone, even a political opponent, if he chooses to. And as the president, he sets U.S. foreign policy. But they are trying to tell us that this man is a threat, a threat to national security. That's a term that came up over and over again. Does anyone believe that? I mean, look what this guy has done. Look what he's sacrificed. Look at his actions, not just his words, but look what he's done to strengthen this country. Does anyone with a brain honestly believe that Donald Trump is a foreign agent, a threat to national security? Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
As an entrepreneur, as somebody that came from the military, now in the veteran community, I'm seeing what he did. Yesterday, he was again for the second year. I was there last year, but he was at the Army Navy again yesterday, and he celebrated.
Look at how he was received.
Exactly.
Love the guy.
By the military community.
Yeah.
Everybody, speaking, and that's really my thing. Is there's such this misguided, painted picture in the media.
I mean, do you believe that he's a threat to national security?
I don't think so.
It's ridiculous.
No.
I mean, I find it difficult even saying that sentence because it's so absurd. But I think the good news, Matt, is that I think people are smart. Yeah. People are a lot like you and I. They're seeing through this nonsense. They realize that this is a party. I don't know what happened to the Democratic Party. All right, it's not the Democratic Party that I knew.
They got people flipping to the Republican Party.
It's crazy. Yeah. They've lost their way. Okay, look what happened in the UK with Boris Johnson. I think the same thing is going to happen here.
Interesting.
They may impeach him, but he'll be the first president to be reelected after being impeached. And that's an interesting achievement.
Wow. When you're looking at the misguided, the fake news, how does somebody, if somebody's watching this right now, how does somebody process what's real news, what's fake news? I mean, do they need to become a better student? They need to understand the issues independently to come up with their own opinion because you can't really trust what's...
It's very, very tough, and that's an excellent question. it's tough. I mean, I can tell you what I do is I tend to watch everything. I force myself to watch networks like MSNBC and CNN. At the same time, I watch Fox, I watch Newsmax. I try to get as much information as I can. And I get to know the issues. So you have an intimate understanding of what's going on, and you'll know when people are bullshitting you. Lesson to be learned, don't accept everything that's in print or on TV as truth. Okay, you got to question everything. And I mean, it's something that I've got young kids. I started to tell my 6-year-old son, don't believe everything that you read. Don't believe everything that this guy's on TV is saying. Go out there, educate yourself. People have to educate themselves so that they're not, lied to and treated like fools.
Wow. When you're looking at society today, your family came here from Egypt.
Right, Egypt and Scotland. I have an interesting
Scotland.
Yeah, crazy mix, and I was born in England, so
wow.
It's a strange. But yeah, I immigrated here with both my parents. 2 years old, we actually arrived by boat into New York. My father had an education, but he had nothing.
How did you and your family? How did you start forming your political opinion?
Good question. I'd be disingenuous if I didn't admit my parents had some influence on me.
Sure.
But I really, I've always been a person that has kind of craved information. Yeah. Whether it's news, whether it's academic stuff. I always did well in school. I spent a lot of time in school at BA, JD, MBA, LLM. So I always kind of took it upon myself to investigate it on my own. And I still do that. I mean, I want to buy a car. I'll talk to people, I'll get opinions, but I'll do my own investigation. And I think that's what people have to do. Don't just go through life blindly. Look around, see what people like, okay? See what people don't like, and, take it in and learn. Formulate your own, opinions. Don't just go through life like a stone.
The foundation of those decisions is based on what you value, what your individual principles are?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, for me, I was raised Coptic Orthodox. I'm a Coptic Orthodox Christian. It's a very old church. I'm a product of the Catholic education system. So for me, the backbone of my life has always been, the church and God
faith,
and Christ. And I still, we don't always act, I haven't really lived an angelic life.
Conservative
basis. We all do things wrong. But the basis of who I am is rooted in, my faith in God. And it is always, again, I haven't lived to the letter of the law like many of us. We all do things that we regret. But that faith has always grounded me and has always kind of driven me forward. And it's given me a lot of inner strength to face adversity, criticism, and uncertainty.
When you're having people read your book, right, The Real Deal, what would you hope that they grab from your book?
I can tell you, I set out to write the book, again, it was a combination of things, some personal reasons, but a lot of it was, this was a man that was good to me. This was a man that taught me a lot. This was a man that took time to mentor me. I felt an obligation to set the record straight. And I did it by just telling stories. And they're not just my own stories. I have 19, 20 different people from the company, all different levels. Okay, even I have a couple chapters that were really done by Eric Trump.
Wow.
All telling stories. Because I think the best way, the most entertaining way to give people an insight into what a person is like is just say, hey, look, here's a story about what he did, when we were doing X, or this is how we used to build, or, we were in New York and we got into a car accident and this is what he did. So the book is full of interesting stories, which I would hope that people who read the book, and I've actually had a lot of people say to me, I don't like him. I really despise him. But you know what? I read your book and I look at things a little differently now. That's what I would hope, that people, he never had an opportunity. People pounced on this guy the moment he came down the staircase. Okay, he was a racist, he was a misogynist, all this nonsense that I know not to be true. I hope my book goes a long way towards dispelling some of those myths. I mean, we struggled with a title. We thought about putting something in there about dispelling myths. I mean, ultimately, I think The Real Deal works But really, to answer your question directly, I hope that people get a different view of Trump, the person. Okay, my book is really about him as a person. I have to talk a little bit about some of the politics and all that. It's unavoidable. But I really focused on what's the guy like.
Right. You know, one of the ways that my wife is, she's learning her political opinions. Her father, her parents are very strong Democrats, and obviously we're conservative, we're entrepreneurs, we're more on the capitalistic side of things.
But there's nothing wrong with having I mean,
sure.
Half my friends are Democrats. I mean, we got to go back to those days where we don't have to all be the same. I can disagree with you, man. I mean, that's just fine.
Like Ellen and George Bush sitting next together at the Cowboys game.
Nothing wrong with it, man. That's you want to talk about what America is made of. I mean, those are the roots of America. People from different backgrounds, they have different opinions, they can disagree, and they can still love each other. There's nothing wrong with it.
Is the seasons of him doing The Apprentice, because I watch The Apprentice a lot, just from a case, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm just studying how to run a boardroom. I mean, is that a fair representation, or is that too much TV?
I think it was, the Trump organization, it was a small, group of very tightly knit people. There was nowhere to hide. It was a results-driven type of place. We didn't have a lot of the corporate formalities that exist in many places. You got the job done or you didn't. Yeah. It was that simple, and I think The Apprentice kind of taps on a lot of that issues. So, I mean, maybe a little less of the drama, but hey, I want you to do this. You're going to succeed or fail. I mean, that's how you were measured. It was a meritocracy. You stuck around, you lasted there because you delivered, or you didn't last. I think you got a little bit of that on The Apprentice. So, I mean, that's a fair.
And I'm seeing how many different people got fair jobs because of it, and how many people got their brands were built because of it, and how many millions of dollars of charity was raised, from the show. You can't have an opinion about what people say, but what people do.
It's a unique thing, man. I think a lot of people don't give him credit for this.
Yeah.
He achieved on many different levels. He was a very successful business person. He went into entertainment. He had a very successful television show. He wrote books. And then, by the way, at 70, 71 years old, he became the president. The highest achievement you could do as a politician. So this is a guy that has achieved in many different specialties of life at the top level. That's pretty unique.
And he's still outworking everybody.
Still doing it, man. He's still doing it. Yeah,
people can't even keep up with his pace.
He's the hardest working guy in the company. That's what anybody that worked at the organization, he set the example at the top. And I think that's, you're a CEO. Okay, there's no better way to motivate the people that work for you than to show them, this is how I'm working.
Yeah.
Okay?
Being from the front.
They see you working like that, big, powerful motivator.
Awesome. Well, you've heard from George Sorial. And if you've been watching this and you're having your thoughts, please drop your comments below. And it's a gift from me to you. You don't know I'm doing this. As a gift from me to you, I would love to send you, for those that share this the most, those that comment the most, we're going to have a deadline set in the comment section below. But make sure you pick up his book. And if you don't pick up his book and you're watching his channel and you're sharing and commenting, I'm going to send you George's book from, what's the best way to do it? From your website or Amazon?
You get it at Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. It's available everywhere.
There, we'll do
Amazon is probably the best deal.
Awesome. So we'll make sure we get it from Amazon to your address if you're the person we randomly select as the most frequent commenter and contributor and sharer of this interview. We need people to read this type of book to inform themselves and educate themselves before they jump to conclusions about their political decisions. So, George, I appreciate you coming to the Seven Figure Squad.
Anytime, man. You call me anytime. I enjoyed it.
I love it. I love it. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Seven Figure Squad. Make sure you hit alert to be, hit notifications to be alerted next time we upload our next episode. Drop your thoughts, drop your comments below. And on behalf of George, I'm your money smart guy. And until we meet again, continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today.